Good morning, everyone. Here's Justin Trudeau yesterday saying on Twitter, for the next 7 days, people across the country and around the world are observing Kwanzaa, embracing its principles and celebrating Black culture. To everyone who's marking this holiday, I'm sending you my warmest wishes. Joyous Kwanzaa. Is Joyous Kwanzaa the traditional Kwanzaa greeting? Is that how you do Kwanzaa? Now, it's interesting to me, Justin Trudeau didn't send out a Christmas message on December 25th. He didn't say anything on December 25th. Nothing. No tweets. No nothing. But the Kwanzaa message was the first one after Christmas, which I thought was kind of weird. Isn't it usually traditional for the leader of a country to wish, like, Merry Christmas on Christmas? Getting a head start on it doesn't seem, I don't know, it just seems odd, right? Here's December 24th, Merry Christmas. I won't talk to you tomorrow because you know it's a holiday, right? But Kwanzaa, I'm there. Merry Christmas, says Trudeau. I know things are different this year and there aren't any dinners to host or parties to go to, but we can and should still give thanks for everything that unites us. My family and I are wishing you and your loved ones the very best. Now, I think that it's interesting that he's using his Christmas message to encourage the lockdown rules, where the Kwanzaa message is just, if you're celebrating the holiday, enjoy, right? It's just subtle differences, but big impact, right? It's interesting in that, turning Christmas to his own means, right? And somebody else who's sending out Kwanzaa wishes, right? Kamala was saying that she celebrated Kwanzaa. She said that her tweet was, one of my favorite childhood memories, me and the family all dressed up in our traditional Kwanzaa stuff. And this is an image of, because she's Jamaican Indian, right? And I have no problem with people and whatever they celebrate. But it seems odd to me to say that you celebrated something when, probably you didn't. Probably you just didn't, right? Like, I watched The Cosby Show. I watched Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I watched Another World. Does that make me cultured? Probably not. But the thing is, Kwanzaa was never mentioned. They weren't like, oh man, time to do the Joyous Kwanzaa. It wasn't like that. They didn't do that. Like, either this is being shoehorned in, like, oh, remember that thing? You'd be racist if you didn't remember, right? You remember, right? No, this is new. This is brand spanking new, and not something that Kamala Harris has ever thought about, right? Outside of her presidential aspirations. It's bunk. It's a very, very strange thing to do, right? It's called a wedge, and this is called driving the wedge. Okay? That's what they're doing. This is politics. I'm just letting you know, because I'm not trying to be racist. I'm not trying to be tone deaf here. I'm trying to say that she didn't celebrate Kwanzaa, and I have no problem with Justin Trudeau saying happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, happy whatever you celebrate, happy Diwali. No problems. I have no problem wishing anybody a Merry Christmas, a happy holidays, whatever you celebrate is fine by me. But I think that it's weird that in the Kwanzaa message, which happened right after Christmas, there was no Christmas Day message from a leader. That's problematic. And two, the Kwanzaa message doesn't drive home the lockdowns in the same way. And I was going to go back and compare and look at the other like Happy Diwali messages, Happy Hanukkah. Were they saying, because we're in stage whatever gray in Toronto or anything like that, stay home, stay safe? I don't think they were doing that. Even Doug Ford, those levels, they weren't doing that. I think it's interesting, right? It's notable because it's different, right? It's notable because it's different. Okay, government orders, non-essential. Family, friends, freedom, human rights, small businesses, churches, children's sports and music lessons, weddings, funerals, breathing, the mask, right? Non-essential. You will get used to it. Is that uncomfortable? Does your breath smell? Oh, well, I guess that it's your fault because you are a disease-ridden parasite, right? No, I don't buy into this garbage, and you shouldn't either. Essential, according to the government. Fake news, we've got to pay for that with our tax dollars. Inaccurate PCR tests, how many millions of dollars a day are we spending on that? Fear, mainline the fear, baby. We're going to have a look at that in just a minute. Control, sorry, I've got a light in front of me now, so I'm trying to get around it. Maybe I should move it over here. That's a good idea, Mark. Control, dying alone, economic collapse, military presence, alcohol, Walmart, and Costco. Welcome to your post-apocalyptic world, everybody. It's idiocracy, right? Welcome to Costco. I love you. Or Walmart. Which one was it? Costco? I think it was Costco. It doesn't matter. Costco had the time machine, didn't it? And so there we are, right? Like, this is what the government is operating on at this point in time. Let's go into what's happening at the airport. Joe Warmington, Lori says, Joe Warmington went to the airport and he got his a letter saying, "Hey, next time you're here, let us know." From Pearson. Freedom of the press? No, not in Canada. Not in Doug Ford's Ontario. No way. Not for you. Anyway, Laurie Goldstein says, our Sunday Toronto Sun editorial, Trudeau government suspends flights from the United Kingdom in a bid to stop spread of a new strain of COVID-19. So why not from China a year ago? A funny thing is, there's two people in Ontario, and I'll get to that in just a minute. They tested positive for COVID-19, this new strain, but they have no history of travel, no reason to have tested positive for this new strain. The likelihood of the same mutation happening in the United Kingdom and Canada independently is like nil. Like it doesn't, that's not possible. It doesn't happen like that. So they're also trying to say that the vaccine won't be impacted by this change. The vaccine, all it does is minimize symptoms. Symptoms of a disease so deadly that you need testing of asymptomatic people to get the numbers high enough to enact the draconian lockdowns they're trying to enact. Anyway, very interesting. If back to the independent manifestation of the same mutation as in the UK and Canada, will they unsuspend flights now, as clearly it's already here, right? Either it's already here or the virus can just manifest itself wherever it wants. We live in GTA 5. Yeah, who knows? This is Will Ferrell. No, it's Bill Morneau. And look at that. They're very, very clear hairline. He's masked, but this is Bill Morneau, and this is an eyewitness account with pictures, with Toronto and Ottawa in COVID lockdown until the end of January, and citizens told to stay home. Bill Morneau and friends get ready to board a plane at Toronto's Pearson Airport. Not sure if Panama is the destination or his home in Florida, or perhaps off to his villa in France. Here he is. Bill Morneau. Definitely Mr. Morneau. Here is Joe Warmington. Canada and Ontario becoming a police state. When reporters have to register to cover a community, all freedom is lost. Facts still on record. Small pubs, stores are locked down, but airports and airplanes are packed. And this is the email to Joe Warmington. It says, "Hi, Joe. I see that you were, or still are, at Pearson today. I'm not sure if you're aware, but media are required to inform us prior to visiting the airport. This process has been in place for some time, but I don't think you've visited in a while, so I wanted to make sure you're aware. Information is on the media page of our website." I think that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which states in it explicitly a free press is mandatory, supersedes your airport rules there, Pearson. Here's Joe Warmington at Pearson Airport bringing us a hot take. He said Ontario's COVID-19 extreme lockdown measures that closed retail stores, restaurants, and scuttles Christmas dinners and Boxing Day sales does not apply to Toronto Pearson International Airport. They're still just coming in. Come on in. Oh, what lockdown? Come on in. Is it safe to be in crowds like at Pearson? Then perhaps fluoridation can end the lockdowns in Ontario and open the pubs back. Pubs, stores, barbers, gyms, and churches. Yeah. If it's safe to do this, if it's safe to go to Walmart, if it's safe to go to Costco, if it's safe to go to a grocery store, if it's safe to go to a corner store, if it's safe to go to Tim Hortons, it's safe to go to a small business, it's safe to open us up, it's safe to go to karate lessons, it's safe to go to the gym. This is safe, and so is that. What's the percentage of the airport outbreaks since, not travel related, but just from the airport, right? Like if people come and isolate, blah, blah, blah. But how many outbreaks from the airport? We've got 4.5% in Toronto travel related, 3.5% in long-term care homes. Of the travel related, how many people are dying? If long-term care makes up 3.5% of long-term care homes in Toronto, 3.5% makes up the total of COVID cases in long-term care homes, and they're predominantly the people who are dying. What are we doing? Why are we locking things down? It doesn't make any sense. We're destroying our culture. We're destroying our economy. We're allowing this to happen. For what? What are even the goals of the lockdown? Can somebody articulate it to me? To flatten the curve? Flattening the curve is not a goal. That's like saying I want to lose a little bit of weight. Oh, I'd just like to take a couple of pounds off, right? Well, is your goal 2 pounds or 5 pounds? 5 pounds or 10 pounds, right? Because without a goal, you're not going to do it, right? You're just not. And without a meaningful goal here, what's the point? Italian courts are striking down and saying governments are acting illegally in ordering lockdowns. This is Howard Steen, and he says, an Italian court has ruled that its government was acting illegally in ordering lockdown. Other EU governments followed Italy the Italy lockdown in March, will they follow now? And this is in French. It's in a French newspaper, but I think it's interesting. Here's the health professionals making videos show the false pandemic that we're living. This is, since the whole pandemic started, we've got videos of dancing nurses, right? And if this was a pandemic, like, the dancing nurse videos just wouldn't be happening. Like, it just wouldn't be. You don't need to have. It's like a fact that speaks for itself, right? Like, no need to interpret if the shelf is too short, right? Like, the fact speaks for itself, or like a bridge is too short, right? Like, there's no denying it, right? Like, it's on its face obvious, right? And this is one of those things. If there's dancing nurses, there's no pandemic. It's one of those things. Oh no, we built the bridge too short. Holy God, we spent a lot of money and made a mistake. Like, you don't need to have feelings about that. This is a fact, and it's a hard fact. Maybe that's a bad example. I'm not sure. This is an interesting video. We're gonna look at the impact of lockdowns for the next couple of tabs here, because I think that there is large costs to pay for this, and people are done. I think they're done. I think there are a lot of people who are done, and this lockdown that's it. The straw that breaks the camel's back. Remember in September, October, maybe even before that, in the summertime, when the government was requesting tear gas canisters? I think I understand that now. I think I get it. I think I understand. This is a guy in, I can't remember which city it is. It's a U.S. city, and there are police here, and he's got his truck blocking the street and the health inspector who's shut his restaurant down. And he says, well, if my guys can't work, then you can't work. Like, you just sit there until for the rest of the day, you can't work if I can't work, basically. It's like tough luck, basically. And he says, he basically tells the deputies are like, listen, like, we're going to try and help you. We're going to try and, do whatever we can. And he says, like, don't make this hard for us because, blah, 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 blah. And she tells him, like, you're going to get your truck towed. Like, we don't want that to happen. So he moves his truck a little bit, but he just moves it so the back part is blocking here. And then the operator, that's when the supervisor shows up, and he tells the supervisor, like, give me a better option to fight this. Like, how do I fight this? This is completely not outside of the norm, but I mean, we've got health inspectors who have a job. Like, this is the same thing as throwing out families in the 1930s from their homes, right? Like, which led to Hoovervilles, which led to, like, basically families camping in encampments in different parks in Central Park or whatever. That's referencing Cinderella Man. But I read about that in high school, etc. The Hoovervilles and the difficulties during the 1930s, people getting on railways to try and find work, etc., etc. It was no joke, but this is self-imposed. We're sawing off our leg because of a sprained ankle, and it makes no sense. And the leg is the small businesses. Oh, I don't mean to play this. The leg is the small businesses, and it's complaining, right? This guy represents the complaining leg. Maybe another bad example, bad analogy. This is just terrible, right? Quinn Parker says, what kind of world do we live in when someone would call the police and public health to try and shut down a small company who went above and beyond to give free dinners and toys to over 900 families who simply needed a helping hand this holiday season? My boss and his beautiful wife have the biggest hearts. They handed their credit cards to several employees and told them to go shopping for toys and food with orders to spend as if they had won the lottery. They paid rent for a homeless man and handed out checks to single mothers who really needed the extra help. Over the past few days, I've witnessed children squeal with delight at the sight of all the toys. I've witnessed worried mothers crumble to tears at the generosity they were witnessing, and I've been overwhelmed by it all as I watched good people line up in droves, swallow their pride, and accept a helping hand. To the person who felt a need to try and hurt this generous effort, I truly hope you have a wonderful Christmas, because that's what all of us at Shadow Auto want for everyone. Merry Christmas. And here's pictures of the officers and the owner getting a ticket. Or having a conversation. I don't know if they were ticketed, but public health tried to shut them down. Ontario shuts down Christmas light drive-thrus early under new lockdown measures. Merry Christmas, bah humbug. But the airports can run, right? We can import lots and lots of people, no problems. Land in Toronto. We don't need small businesses. We'll just lock down forever. It's fine, no problem. Dan Kelly, president of the CFIB. The Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. Boxing Day sales start at Walmart and Costco, while retailers in Ontario begin a 14 to 28-day lockdown or start another round for many. If you think this is unfair and may lead to worse COVID outcomes, please let Ford Nation and MPPs know. It doesn't matter. I've let Ford Nation know. I've called him. I've requested a call back from him. I've called his office daily since these lockdowns started. Chinese people started picking up. I think I played that call, but maybe I should play that call. It's a weird thing. Maybe it has to do with my VoIP thing, but when I called his office, there was I don't think I reached his office, which was strange. But my point is, telling your MPP seems to be falling on deaf ears. They don't care, and Ford Nation doesn't seem to care. Doug Ford doesn't care. He just kicks them out of caucus if they don't fall in line. So look at Brenda Carey-Ellis. Look at Randy Hilliard. Both were conservative MPs until they said, "Hey, hold on a second. This is wildly inappropriate, and you can't do that. You're done. See you later. That's it. Out of caucus." Back to Dan Kelly. Not a single other province in Canada, together with their medical officers of health, have opted for Ontario's ridiculous approach of closing quiet small firms while pushing traffic to busy big box stores. Remember, media is reporting 700 COVID cases at Walmart and 400 at Amazon. Again, the case numbers don't matter. The case numbers, it is just a faulty metric pushing these draconian lockdowns. I'm still upset that Dan Kelly hasn't started encouraging his members for civil disobedience and hasn't started lawsuits, because this is absolute. How do you fight this if the people who are supposed to be fighting for you are tweeting all day? Like, this is not an effective way to fight this. Like, how many Canadians are on Twitter? 3% or something like that? Like, it's like hanging out in PEI while and ignoring the rest of Canada, right? Like, jeepers creepers. I mean, not to say that I'm angry that he's tweeting. What I'm saying is, do some actual things and use Twitter to update people on what you're doing, not using Twitter as your tool, right? Like, this isn't it. This isn't it. Anyway, regardless, starting today, ski hills will be forced to close under new lockdown rules. It was a gut punch. We were taken by surprise. Why would they close ski hills? Why would they close ice rinks? They were saying in the spring that being outside is safe. They open parks in the spring, etc., etc., etc. Why are we listening to this? Why are we allowing this to happen? Because we are allowing this to happen. We are allowing this to happen. There was a point when I thought, why are we allowing Julian Assange to rot in prison when all he did was bring truthful reporting to the world? It seems like, and it seemed at the time like I didn't really have the power to do anything about it. And I still feel like, what kind of power do I have to do anything about it? Because look at the opposition up against Trump. And I'm obviously not the president of the United States, right? Trump is a much more successful person than I am. So look at that. Look at the resistance there. And regardless of the right or the wrong thing to do, the right thing is not to be imprisoned for reporting on something that somebody else has done, and the act of that reporting. So shouldn't get you in prison forever, right? Especially without a trial, especially without being held to the same standard as other criminals, right? Like which he hasn't been. He's been held in an embassy and then held in Belmarsh since, years now. And how can the world just stand by and say we're this democratic society? Tommy Robbins, another good example. Why are these injustices allowed to stand? Why do we just say, oh well, I guess there's nothing you can do about the government? Why are we allowing this injustice to stand? Why are we just letting them roll over ski hills? Did you look outside? Like, this is this is a Christmas gift to ski hills. And Doug Ford is the Grinch who stole Christmas. That's a bad analogy. Maybe that's a good analogy. Doug Ford's a lot bigger than the Grinch, but his heart is tiny. Here's a guy in the States. He's saying American. I agree with a lot of what he's saying. I'm just going to play a little part of this. Here we go. He says he's right. If we don't fight back in the real world, not just the internet, then we're screwed. This is our last chance. It's now or never. Here's an impassioned speech. Here we go.
Like a victim criminal mentality. As the victim, I'll just do whatever the criminal tells me to do. They'll let me go when I'm done. They don't want to let us go. They want complete freaking control of us. They don't want us going back to normality. So this is the time we got to stand up. Every freaking business has got to stand up and put these sons of bitches down.
Amen.
Because if we don't, they're taking us out.
That's right.
I'm 60 freaking years old. I've lived all my life as an American.
That's right.
And Robbie's right. This isn't about Democrat or Republican. This is about American.
That's right.
And I am not ready to give my country up to these people so that they can ruin my life, everybody's life in here. We got to stop them.
Yeah.
We got to.
And when he says American, I think this is freedom, the core values of the West, right? And they are destroying the culture. They're taking away ski hills. They're taking away skating. They're taking away shinny hockey. They're taking away Christmas. They are taking away our culture. They're taking away our small businesses, the things that make communities unique. Do you want to drive into a community and know that there's going to be a Costco and a Walmart and scared eyes behind masks for the rest of your life? Is that what you want? That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're sleepwalking into it. Oh, just if we comply a little longer. We can't comply with illegal orders, criminal orders. Look at this. It's officially illegal to buy a coffee maker or a flower pot in Quebec, but marijuana is an essential product provided by the state. I would have told you 10 years ago I would have been interned in an institution. Images taken today. It's closed. Can't buy toys now. Flower pots? No. No. That's not essential. Citizen, you don't get to deem what's essential. I get to deem what's essential. Here's a short film. This is worth you 2 minutes. Here's a short film from an Ontario teenager. It is her sitting in lockdown, and it's day after day after day. I'm going to show you the last, 30 seconds. Listen, this is why my kids aren't going to be going to online school. This is why online learning is an aberration. It is abhorrent. It is not appropriate. It has not been studied. I've not seen any kind of studies that look at how online school works compared to regular school. I haven't seen the mental health impacts of online schooling. 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. These people think they can experiment on our kids. These people think that because they're the government, they can order us to send our kids through this torture. They can shove it. They can shove it. Thank you for making this. And I don't know who made this. Her YouTube channel, full videos here. I'm just going to show a little bit of it here. Not a chance. Why would you do that to somebody? Why would you do that to your kids? We're supposed to protect our kids. We're supposed to stand up for our kids. Dr. Kaur says, no matter what the test, the dominant result is that not only lockdowns were not effective, but that in a large majority of cases, lockdowns were counterproductive, led to more infections and deaths that would have been caused with no lockdowns. Why are we doing this? Why are we allowing them to do this to us? Here's Dr. Dina Hinshaw. She's BC. I think she's Alberta, not BC. And she says, here's today's COVID Alberta modifier update on December 24th. There was an estimated 1,200 new cases, 17,800 laboratory tests. On Christmas Eve, there were 17,800 laboratory tests done. On Christmas Day, there were 14,000 tests done and 900 new cases in Alberta. Who's going out to get tested? Seriously? Really? Here's Greg, and he says, as if thousands of people are getting tested on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. For anyone who believes this, I have 40,000 acres of ocean view property in Saskatchewan for sale. Really cheap too. Yep. Yeah, and he's responding to Christine Elliott, who says Ontario is reporting 2,140 new cases today. That was on yesterday, and 2,159 cases reported on Christmas Day. And there are 541 new cases in Toronto, 344 in Peel, 262 in York Region, and 136 in Hamilton. Where are these numbers coming from? This is just, it's a shell game. Like, it's a numbers shell game. Here's Patty Haydu. She says 2 people in Ontario have tested positive for the new COVID-19 variant from the UK, and neither of them have traveled. An important reminder that the best way to prevent infection is to continue following public health measures. Fear, 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 right? This guy says, you allow people with HIV, which is a death sentence without lifelong treatment, to be chefs in restaurants and serve food. Yet you shut them down due to what is essentially the seasonal flu, which a person can beat in a week with no lasting ill effects. Seems out of whack. Okay, now I wanted to tell about this because when I was talking about the mutation and talking about can the COVID-19 mutation that we saw in Europe develop independently in Canada? That's unlikely. Can it like, I don't know how these people got the infection with the same one. Maybe they were exposed to people close to the UK travelers, but if it's here, again, we have to lift the UK travel thing because the genie's out of the bottle now, unless they're just doing it for other reasons. Yeah, but I wanted to go down the little rabbit hole of the isolation of COVID-19. So, like, isolating COVID-19 is a process, and you have to isolate and cultivate. Not cultivate's the wrong word. Hold on. So in order to study the virus, you want to isolate it and then duplicate it in a laboratory and grow cultures of that virus. Now, what this person is asking for and has been unable to find, Christine Massey, she's from fluoridefreepeel.ca, and she's got a bunch of freedom of information requests from all over the world looking for the isolation of COVID-19. This proves it's real and not just something that's made up, for lack of a better word. And so she's got from the National Research Council of Canada, but if you scroll on her Twitter feed, you'll find from Italy and from all around the world. And I'll show some other examples as well here before we're done. But every single one has no record of the isolation of the SARS-CoV-2 independent of combining it with other genetic material. And the context will be written, or you'll understand that in just a second. So that's interesting to me. Like, if you can't isolate the first one, how are we proving the second one exists? Where's the isolation and duplication of this second variant? What are the differences? How do you know it's a second variant? Are you just relying on, and I'll show you what I think they were relying on in the first place. And I'll show you some other stuff that makes me question all of this. So here we go. Okay, dear Christine Massey, the letter is in response to the request you made to the National Research Council, NRC, under the Access to Information Act for records pertaining to all records in the possession, custody, or control of the National Research Council of Canada, describing the isolation of SARS-CoV-2 virus directly from a sample taken from a diseased patient, wherein the patient sample was not first combined with any other source of genetic material. Please note that I'm using isolation in the everyday sense of the word, the act of separating a thing from everything else. I'm not requesting records where isolation of SARS-CoV-2 refers instead to the culturing of something or the performance of an amplification test, i.e. a PCR test, or the sequencing of something. Please also note that my request is not limited to records that were authored by the NRC or that pertain to work done by the NRC. My request includes any sort of records, for example, but not limited to any publication, peer-reviewed study that the NRC has downloaded or printed. If any records match the above description or of requested records and are currently available to the public elsewhere, please provide enough information about each record so that I may identify and access each record with certainty, i.e. titles, authors, dates, blah, blah, blah. And then here's a response. Your request was received by the NCR on June 13th, 2020, and your application fee was received and processed on June 19th. A thorough search of NRC's records has now been completed, and we regret to inform you that no records responsive to your request were identified. Okay, so they couldn't find it. This is Gemma O'Doherty, and she's talking here in the first minute or so, the first minute or so, she's talking about her own freedom of information requests, and she says basically the same thing. The major, more research places, a high value one is agreeing that nobody's ever isolated this SARS-CoV-2 virus. Here's another one, an email exchange with UK MHRA exposing the genomic sequence of SARS-CoV-2. This is from December 23rd, and this says, Dear Francis Leader, just to add some further information, the DNA template severe acute respiratory syndrome of coronavirus 2 was generated via a combination of gene synthesis and recombinant DNA technology. Should you require any further advice or assistance on this matter, please feel free to call us. Our operating hours are blah, blah, blah. So there's the resequencing and like using a DNA template is, as far as I know, basically they said this is what the virus looks like on paper, and then look for that and you've got a positive test. So, but I don't know. Here's the CDC, and it says SARS-CoV-2 viral culturing at CDC. So this is SARS-CoV-2 was isolated in the laboratory and is available for research by the scientific community. So reading through this, and I asked, I sent a message to Christine saying, hey, why doesn't this qualify? Why doesn't the CDC report qualify for what you're asking for? Did they actually do this? Did they isolate it and reproduce it and culture it, or what? So I'll tell you when I find out. I don't know. But my question mainly is, if they haven't cultured this, if they haven't isolated the first one, how are they saying this one's way different? We're studying this one and this one's way different, but it's not different enough to affect the vaccine. How do they know all that? I'd really like to understand, because again, like it matters, right? They're trying to force vaccines on us. Regardless of whether you think the forced vaccine is forced or not, they're implying that if you don't take a vaccine, you won't be able to travel. So it's a forced vaccine. And I would love to understand as much as I possibly can before saying I'll never take a vaccine. Well, I've already said that, and I'm not going to take any said vaccine. But I mean, I'd love to understand all this stuff because they're still pushing ahead with it, and I think that they're wrong. And I think that articulating that they're wrong is an important act. The serology tests are not based on proven isolated SARS-CoV-2 virus. Instead, it's based on PCR results with the CDC, which the CDC admits are not proof of SARS-CoV-2 virus existence. Serology tests are essentially based on fraudulent PCR tests. So I don't know if this is circular chicken or the egg. Like, we've got this PCR test here that confirms COVID-2, and we've successfully cultured the COVID-2 or COVID-19 or whatever from this PCR test, or from somebody who's tested positive with the PCR test and then tested their culture with the same PCR test, right? Like, I don't know if it's circular like that or not. I have no idea, but it seems like things are not nearly as transparent as they need to be for people to be going into full lockdowns, especially when it's like, you know, some rules for Walmart, some rules for the airport, some rules for Costco, and some rules for small businesses. Here's some more fear. Health officials in Ontario say 2 cases of the COVID-19 variant that first showed up in the UK have been confirmed in the province. The cases are a couple from Durham with no known travel history, exposure, or high-risk contacts, according to provincial officials. More, Canada has imposed a travel ban on all flights from the UK. So from reading this, it seems like the couple is completely independent of being exposed to this UK variant, and still independently it just popped up. It defies belief. It's much more plausible that there's some contamination somewhere, right? In the testing kits or something, right? Where did all the testing kits come from? I wonder if they'll find some similarities, right? Between the testing kits that came up with these positives and the testing kits that came up with the other positives. I don't know. I'm just wondering, because it just seems to defy any kind of reason, right? Here's more fear. Dr. Kevin Smith is a president and CEO, University Health Network, and he says this puts it into stark perspective. Thanks, Moriarty Lab, for this shocking analysis. And he's comparing the deaths from different world wars. And so the 1914 to 1918 World War I, 67,000 deaths. Do you know what the population of Canada was in World War I? It was much less than it is today. Much, much less. And I don't actually know off the top of my head. I'm going to find out right now just because I don't know. Okay, it was 8 million people, and it's now 37 million people, okay? 38 million people if Trudeau's continuing to get his way. So the Spanish flu killed 55,000 Canadians, okay? The Second World War, 11 million is our population, 11.5 million population now, 45,000 people, which is still less than the First World War. And COVID-19 killed 14,000 people. However, he's not comparing to like the usual death rate of like heart disease and cancer or even flu, right? He's not comparing to flu disease. I didn't compare to flu. Hold on, I should compare to flu. Here are the leading causes of death ranked by number from 2015 to 2019. 80,000 people died of cancer. Diabetes killed 6,912 people in 2019. Where's the number 2? Heart disease. Number 2, 52,000 people died of heart disease in Canada. Influenza and pneumonia, that's number 7. And in 2019, that's 6,893 people. And so there's no doubt that the COVID death numbers are higher than that. But at the same time, the deaths are counted in a way that don't make very much sense. So it's counted if you have a positive COVID test in the last 28 days, then you count as a COVID death. So I think that it's interesting. And even looking at this, there's 8,511 deaths in 2018, right? So 2018 was a very deadly flu year. So when you compare, rather than comparing to Second World Wars and catastrophic events, if you actually look at kind of the demographics and the numbers, so 14,778. Again, those death numbers. So about half of those are flu. I wonder how many flu deaths in 2020, right? I wonder if this chart will do that. Hold on. No, this chart doesn't go to 2020. No data on 2020, I suppose. But very interesting, right? 14,000 COVID deaths according to this guy's chart. And it looks like it's sourced there. Yeah, sourced. So interesting numbers. But still, comparing the way he compared is just to increase fear. in my opinion. This is an interesting interview. This gentleman's talking about the mRNA viruses mRNA vaccines and the potential problems with it. It's worth the watch. It's very, very concerning what's going on with these vaccines. They skipped the animal trials because they've never had an mRNA vaccine successful through the animal trials, so they just skipped those, for human trials. And this was taken off of Twitter. I'm gonna play this. This is worth watching. I know I'm long today. 35? No, I'm not long yet. Okay, 35 minutes. Here we go. This is a minute. Here we go.
Hi, I am a registered nurse in Nashville, Tennessee, and my name is Kalila Mitchell. I'm reaching out to everyone about the COVID-19 vaccination. I recently took the COVID-19 vaccination. After the shot, I felt fine, but within 3 days, I went to the doctor because I had problems with my face. The whole left side of my face, actually. I have Bell palsy now. And as you can see, I can't smile. I'm trying to smile. I'm just kind of embarrassing for it. But I just want everyone to know that I think this vaccination is the worst thing ever. And I would not give this to anybody, even my worst enemy. Please.
This was removed from Twitter. Shocking, right? If you're paying attention, it's not that shocking. Here's Justin Trudeau implying that our vaccine is so valuable that it could be hijacked by vaccine pirates or something. I'm not sure. Here's Global News reporting on Christmas Day. Threats to coronavirus vaccine among reasons military leading the rollout. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the possibility of threats to the country's precious supply of coronavirus vaccines is among the reasons why the military is leading distribution. In a year-end interview, Trudeau was asked about the security of the vaccine rollout following comments from BC's top doctor, as well as the military head of the distribution effort, that acknowledged that there are indications the vaccines or their rollout could be targeted. That's one of the reasons why we're so pleased to have the Canadian Armed Forces Major General Danny Fortin in charge of the logistics in the delivery of vaccines, Trudeau said when asked whether he was concerned there could be an attempt to hijack or attack the vaccines. They're assessing, as they always do, all sorts of potential risks, from storms coming to criminal activities, to make sure that not just that we're protecting those vaccines, but we're protecting the integrity of the supply chain. Can we just give it to the pirates? Can we just hand it to them and be like, you know what, you guys have fun with that, let us know how it goes? Don't want it. It's interesting as well. This person says, hard to believe that inexpensive established drugs aren't being used to treat COVID-19. Makes you wonder what's really going on. This is skynews.com.au. It says only a 1 in 17 billion chance hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. It's interesting, right? You can't use hydroxychloroquine for coronavirus, but you can, or for COVID-19, but you can if you're going to go to a place that's got malaria. You can't use Invertism. I think that's it. Inversimine. No, Invertism is better. Can't use that medication because, it's tested and safe. But if the virus gives you Bell's palsy, well, that's mandatory, right? Sorry about your luck. I guess you got the short end of the stick. Can you take a chance with the virus? I've had the virus. I'm immune because I've already had it. Oh, that's not how it works. You've got to have our 2-phase vaccination, and then the next year version 2 because of the mutation, don't you know, right? Officials mum on how Bank of China anti-abortion groups got in on wage subsidy. The federal government isn't saying how much money several Chinese state-owned enterprises and anti-abortion groups got through the wage subsidy. The Canadian Revenue Agency on Monday released a searchable registry of the 300,000 odd businesses, charities, and nonprofits that have applied for and received the wage subsidy so far. But a spokesperson for the agency said tax laws only allows the publication of the name of any person or partnership that made an application, not the amount they received. Here's part of the reason why I think that this has been so poorly mismanaged. This is seriously and unironically put out by the NDP, and it is cringeworthy. It is as cringeworthy as... Now, it's just really cringeworthy. It's really bad. Here it is. Here it is. I'm gonna fast forward because it's terrible. Like, is this made for adults? That's terrible.
Friends, today we are gonna make some delicious cookies. But these are gonna be new democratic cookies. So it's going to take ingredients of love and compassion and caring for each other and justice for Indigenous people.
We need 1 egg. And we need climate justice.
We need 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. And we need food security for all Canadians.
We need 6 tablespoons of butter. And we need universal affordable childcare.
Making cookies with the NDP, cringe. It's like a Mad TV skit that misses. You're like, yeah, I'd watch more, but you're not funny. Bill Tufts is pointing out, they're targeting farms. I remember seeing a TED Talk not too long ago talking about how Canada was leading the way with farming fish, and that what we were doing was some groundbreaking. And then he made some fish joke about ground. But regardless of all that, Bill Tufts points out, Trudeau has destroyed Canada economically. He's destroyed oil and gas, forestry, restaurants, hotels, 50% of small businesses. Now the Great Reset is closing farms in Canada as a test run with the UN DRIP bans salmon farms, next livestock. Yeah, they're shutting down the salmon farms in BC beginning in 2022. It's like right now. It's right now. It's no time at all. Like this time next year. Done. Like, yeah. I started doing my show in 2018, and that seems like a blink of an eye, and we're almost in 2021. And to make food more expensive systemically on Canadians while claiming that they're like increasing the carbon tax works, it doesn't work. All it does is give them money to play with. The carbon tax itself fails at reducing CO2 in the atmosphere, right? It's just crazy. It doesn't work. It's provable that it doesn't work. It's crazy. This is a big story. The Pakistani girl who fled to Canada, she's talking about how she exposed the fact that hundreds of Pakistani military officers who tortured and killed Baluch activists are now being allowed to settle and live and work in Canada for ISI. So very interesting. These are very concerning situations. Evolutions. I don't know what the Baluch is, but I fear that I'm going to have to get to know what the Baluch is to be able to talk about this. I think this is like an actual person, but she's an they're talking about it as if they're a group of activists, specific activists. I don't know if this is if that's her last name or what, but there's a lot more to this, and it goes deep, and it has lots to do with all the other global political stuff that's going on right now, realignments and loyalties and traditional friends in democracy, Canada and the United States. That's being tested now because of the overtures from China, the expansionist Silk and Road initiatives from China, Canada's investment in the Asia Infrastructure Bank. All of this stuff is coming to a head, make no mistake. And I've said this before, but Canada's in a lot of trouble. Canada's in a lot of trouble because the communists are here. And they're either in control of the people who are in control of our government, or they are just directly the people who are in our government, right? And they think, like I said, I don't think anybody's the bad guy in their own story, right? So I think that they think that what they're doing is good, but they don't understand. Either they don't care to understand history, or they're just not interested in looking at it. But goodness me, this has been done before, and it worked a treat then, and it seems to be working well now. Very, very concerning. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful Boxing Week break, I guess. Boxing couple of weeks. I don't know, a couple of weeks off. I hope that we figure something out to get businesses open and to get back into normal life, because I don't think they want to return us to normal. So time to organize, time to talk to people, time to figure things out, because this has gone on long enough, eh? Thanks for watching, everyone. Check out CanadaPoly.com, check out CanadaReport.co, check out SpeakingMoistly.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.